Welcome to the Inclusive Leadership Coaching Podcast. I'm Terri Donohue, your neurospicy inclusion coach. I am an ICF PCC life and leadership coach, passionate about social justice and specializing in neurodiversity. My purpose on this journey is to partner with you as you build an inclusive coaching practice that expands your impact. Here on the Inclusive Leadership Coaching Podcast, we believe leadership isn't just about titles or positions of power. It's about behavior, collaboration, and creating real, inspiring change. So let's get to it. Hey, leaders. As some of you know, I've redesigned this podcast from neurodivergently coaching to inclusive leadership coaching. This new direction embraces an intersectional lens, one that recognizes the rich complexity of who we are. You see, I realized some months ago that focusing solely on neurodivergence would be a disservice to you and not fully looking at all of the parts of all of us and myself. And I wanted to live more authentically in my skin. So I am thrilled that this new approach has been well received, with our numbers climbing steadily. For all of you inclusive internal coaches, actually, the external ones too, that enjoy fun facts, did you know that leaders who develop an intersectional awareness make better decisions? Research shows they build more psychologically safe teams. They retain diverse talent more effectively, and leaders who use an intersectional approach to inclusion report a 34% higher innovation matrix compared to those using single identity diversity strategies. You feel me? Today's episode is all about understanding intersectionality at a deeper and, of course, more personal level. You know, we get a little personal here. So let me start off with what the heck intersectionality even means. For those that are wondering what I am talking about, when we talk about identity, we're talking about how we see ourselves and also how others see us. It shapes our values, our lived experiences, beliefs, quirks, and personality traits. And here's the thing, identity isn't fixed. It evolves. It's fluid. It shifts as we grow and as the world around us shifts too. Most of us carry more than one identity. Actually, all of us. Right? You might be neurodivergent, Black, a woman, queer, disabled, a parent, an immigrant, all of these parts of who we are. And they don't exist in little boxes. They overlap, they interact, they intersect as well. That's what people mean when they talk about intersecting identities. It's all the parts of you showing up together in one body, in one life. Now, intersectionality takes that idea and goes even deeper. It's not just about what identities we have. It's about how the world treats us because of how these identities combine. So instead of thinking Black plus woman plus neurodivergent, three separate struggles, intersectionality looks at the unique experiences of being all of those things at once. It's not a math equation. It's not additive. It's layered and compounding and can carry extra heavy burdens for some. I like to think of it like this. Intersecting identities are like ingredients in my smoothie. But intersectionality, that's the flavor that comes out when all of those ingredients get blended together. You can't separate them after they're blended. And you definitely can't understand the taste by looking at just the smoothie alone, just one thing in the cup. And this is why understanding intersectionality matters in coaching. I'm going to keep digging on down because we don't experience life in pieces. We experience it all at once. So when we look at identity through an intersectional lens, we start to see people more fully. And we start to show up with more empathy, more awareness, and more intention. For instance, my identity is dynamic. I think really everyone's identity is, but I'm just going to put a little, I'm going to use myself as an example. My identity is dynamic, and all of these aspects impact my lived experience. Some of those aspects are connected to systemic oppression. Systems like white supremacy culture. I'm wondering if I'm going to do the disclaimer because so many people don't know what white supremacy culture is. White supremacy culture is the water we all swim in. It is not the shark. That is a white supremacist. The water we all swim in is toxic. Some people have book bags. Actually, we all have book bags on. Some book bags are heavier with heavier compounding burdens in them, and some are lighter. And some people are swimming easier than others. So I digress. Systems like white supremacy culture, patriarchy, and ableism create environments where certain behaviors are rewarded and others are punished, reinforcing existing power struggles. So when Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality back in 1989, she showed us that Black women's experiences couldn't be fully understood through racism or sexism alone. because the intersection of these identities creates something so very distinct. And guess what? She has a podcast, and the link will be in the show notes. So, in coaching, for instance, we can't fully support someone by focusing only on their neurodivergence while ignoring other vital aspects like race or socioeconomic background, just to name a few, gender, just to name a few. That's why intersectionality is so crucial in inclusive leadership coaching. By examining all facets of identity, we address every dimension of power at work. Let me share a real example that illustrates this perfectly. Hi, everybody. Have you ever considered how much more impactful your life or coaching practice could become? And what if that support came through an anti-oppression DEIA lens? Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? If the answer is yes, and I have a feeling it is, then you're exactly where you need to be. I'm Terri, an ICF, PCC, life and leadership coach specializing in neurodiversity. I provide tailored support to individuals, fellow coaches, groups, and organizations. Whether you're looking to grow personally, improve your coaching practice, or foster neuro-inclusivity in your organization, we can work together to create real positive change. So why wait? Contact me today for a complimentary starter consultation. My booking link is in the show notes. Enjoy the rest of the episode, and I look forward to connecting with you. I once encountered a situation with a white, male, neurodivergent coach who wanted information, actually more information, because we met once, and he wanted to dive deeper into my lived experience. He wanted more. And that kind of made me feel a little uncomfortable. He said it was for his learning and development and his inclusive business. That gave me pause. I expressed that it felt like an appropriation of BIPOC knowledge and experiences without proper attribution. I get this so often you wouldn't believe. Some people want to pick my brain for their advancement, then disappear without any acknowledgement, no physical appreciation, no allyship, poof, nothing. So what I mean by appropriation of BIPOC knowledge is that concepts, frameworks, and lived experiences originally developed by Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC is the acronym, are taken and presented as new insights or strategies. You see, over the years, dominant culture has used language, ideas, cultural wisdom has been forged through generations of BIPOC struggle and resilience without acknowledging these origins or citing the original thought leaders. Do you see where I'm going with this? This practice, this appropriation, erases valuable cultural narratives and hinders the advancement of the BIPOC community. When I raised this concern about this pattern with someone that I thought we were growing in partnership, his response focused solely on his neurodivergent identity, his emotions and feelings about being misunderstood. I never believed there was malicious intent. I understand for some, it can be an unconscious sense of entitlement, but I didn't even get that far, actually, until now. Still, by centering himself and his one identity, his neurodivergence, he sidestepped any acknowledgement of how his whiteness and the associated privilege were operating in that moment in our relationship. This situation happens so often. My voice was silenced when I was only protecting myself and other people within my community. This is what we call selective identity salience. When someone emphasizes one aspect of their identity, particularly a marginalized identity, while downplaying another aspect, often a privileged identity that may be more relevant to the power dynamics in a particular situation. In essence, his neurodivergence became a shield that blocked meaningful conversation about racial dynamics. I was open to going into this conversation deeper, but he suggested I was creating an unsafe space for him. This is such a dangerous allegation coming from a white man towards a Black woman, effectively tone policing my attempt to maintain boundaries around BIPOC knowledge. I had to protect my energy and my boundaries, something we all deserve to do. This interaction perfectly demonstrates what happens when we fail to take an intersectional approach in our coaching relationships or to any relationship. Our intersectional identities collide. Critical dimensions of power and privilege remain unexamined and unchallenged. So, what does this mean for us in inclusive leadership coaching? You're probably wondering. It means we need to be intentional about holding space for all dimensions of identity at the same time. It means we don't just coach people's goals, we coach their whole life experience. That reminds me of Marsha Reynolds' book, Coach the Person, Not the Problem. I actually haven't read it yet, and I hear it's amazing. It's like very popular. But from an intersectional lens, I would go a step further and say, coach the whole person, not just the problem. It means developing the capacity to notice when we or our clients selectively highlight certain identities while minimizing others, especially in relationship. It means recognizing that as coaches, we have a responsibility to understand how different systems of oppression operate, both separately and together. Active listening is where this intersectional lens really comes into play. As coaches, we must pay attention to both what our clients are saying and what they don't say, right? In order to fully understand the message within their context. Coaching with an intersectional lens lets us see the barriers our clients face, even when they don't speak up for themselves, especially around their coach who might show visible privilege. I know these challenges are there. Not everyone walks into the room feeling safe. Not everyone has the same opportunities or the freedom to be fully who they are. Before we end today's episode, I want to talk about two essential practices that addresses the challenges I have described. You know, I will always give you things to take away. First, we must practice cultural humility. Cultural humility means showing up with a mindset of lifelong learning and self-awareness when engaging with cultures different from your own. It's not about becoming an expert in someone's culture. It's about recognition that you never fully know someone's lived experience and that you're open to being corrected and willing to unlearn what you've been taught. The second practice, allyship. I don't think I'm gonna need to do an episode because I probably talk about it every other episode. So what does allyship look like in practice? Allyship is about confronting your own bias and privilege. And it's also about taking concrete action. In allyship, we recognize when to step back and when to step up. So he could have stepped back and been like, wow, Terri, say more. Tell me more. Or I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let Terri talk. I'm not going to center myself right now. That coach, from my example, could have demonstrated allyship by simply saying something like, I've learned so much from your work. I've left a positive 5-star review and rating, and I'll be sharing your content in my network or tagging you or liking your stuff, like any of those things. Which brings me to a direct request, my listeners. You can practice allyship right here and now. If the concepts and frameworks I've shared today have been valuable to you, actually, not even just today, all of my stuff has ever been valuable to you, if they have helped you become a more inclusive coach, please don't take this intellectual property without reciprocity. Leave a 5-star review for this podcast and rate it, please. This tangible action directly supports me. And if you really want to make my day, share this episode and any others that you like with other coaches who could benefit from an intersectional lens. I've learned that the most effective way podcasts grow isn't through algorithms. It's through listeners like you sharing content that has impacted them. So let me go back to what I was talking about before. This is why I had to redesign this episode. Because some of us live, learn, and grow humbly. That's exactly how intersectionality works in practice. Humbly recognizing that we all carry both privilege and marginalization, and choosing to use our privilege to support others in concrete, meaningful ways. And that's the difference between having intersecting identities and inclusively leading with an intersectional lens. Until next time, leaders, keep coaching and being in partnership with the whole person, not just their parts. Bye. Boom! Shakalaka! And that is a wrap on this episode of the Inclusive Leadership Coaching Podcast. If something in today's conversation got you thinking, I would love to hear about it. Connect with me on LinkedIn or at terridonohue.com. And hey, if you're enjoying this podcast or you really want to support me, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review, and stick around. There's plenty more to come. Next time, we'll dive into even more exciting conversations. Until then, keep leading with inclusion in mind.